So you found the skeleton. How would you tell it that is you personally? How would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kent with Bent, where we also have a Vishanti today. Vishanti decided to drop on in and then said to me, "You'll never guess what I'm drinking." And then I said, "Water." And then she said, "Yeah, but, that's not what I meant." And I said, "Beer." And then her eyes got wide. And then I said, "Modelo." Because, in fact, I will guess. So,
I was tempting fate.
You were, especially by having me guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to guess.
I have successfully guessed when you were about to go to bed on the basis of literally nothing. So why you thought I wouldn't be able to guess your beer, I have no idea.
Well.
All right. So, I'm noticing that I have the Kent slightly in the wrong spot because this is a different set that I haven't used since my computer got back. So we'll call that Adapter as a professional because I'm thirsty already. All right. So, we are, if this is new for you, this is your first time, this is Kent with Bent, where we take a look at the nonsense of Kent Hovind, but primarily stuff he's done a while back, mostly because his newer stuff is just not nearly as interesting. He doesn't make as many claims. He just kind of insults people now because he's a bitter old man. So like, I don't think it's actually very entertaining to watch a bitter old man beat SpongeBob over the head, given that he's also, convicted of violently abusing a former, spouse-ish. They weren't legally married, but like whatever. I don't particularly care about that fact. So I'm going to say spouse. Because, I don't think that the government gets to define your relationships, even if you are a crazy abusive cult leader. So there you go. I don't know. Is that libertarian of me to say that the government shouldn't be defining your romantic relationships?
Maybe
a little bit.
Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, we are currently going through his series of creation science evangelism classes. So this is CSE. What is it? Goodness.
I think it's 104.
104. Yeah, class 7. I think it is. And so there's a lot of those, and we're actually well past the halfway point with them, and well past the halfway point with this video. But before we get into it, we do have a little drinking game that we play with this show. Now, it is important to note that if you want to play along, you absolutely do not have to play along with anything with alcohol in it. You can play along with water, tea, juice, soda, coffee. You can play along with a vape pen. You can play along with just eating a piece of popcorn or a chip or something. You can play along however you want. But if you do choose to play along with an intoxicating substance, please know your limits, pace yourself, and don't then go on after playing this game to drive an automobile, operate heavy machinery, fly an aircraft, or text your ex. And apparently I was tired or something when I made the description for this, because apparently I got everything wrong in setting up the stream. So I'm going to go fix who it says that the stream is with. So that's weird. So let's see. Let's go through the drinking rules. So first of all, we will drink, as you already saw, if I screw up the production. So that has to be something that I actually do. It's not like a natural disaster or something beyond my control. So if software crashes or there's a tornado or something, that's not on me. And so we don't drink for that. We just take shelter, apparently. And over behind me is where we take shelter. Actually, I know the spot because there are not very many spots that don't have windows. There's one hallway and that's it. So, other drink triggers will be if Kent Hovind just is too dumb. So basically, then we need some like brain coolant. So yeah, if he says something that's too dumb, we take a drink, which that can happen a lot. We also take a drink if Kent Hovind actually gets something right that's not just him quoting from like something he's reading. If it's in his brain and it's factually correct, we take a drink for it. Now, eventually, as the show goes on, and we haven't had many of those, we do tend to get a little bit more generous where he'll say something like, now, this is a picture I took at the Grand Canyon. We're like, yep, sure is. Take a drink. So, you know, we get a little generous. We'll also take a drink if Kent Hovind tells a joke that doesn't land or tells a story that didn't happen. We'll also take a drink if Kent Hovind mixes up what we can know about Lucy, the Australopithecus afarensis specimen, with what we can know about any larger group to which she belongs on the basis of her skeleton. We call that an ad hominid. So, for example, if Kent Hovind says, well, we don't know how many cervical vertebrae she had, we can say, all right, Kent, but we have the full cervical spinal column of other Australopithecus, and also she's a mammal, so, like, it's 9, because, like, unless you're a sloth, it's 9. So, yeah, we call that ad hominid again. We will also take a drink if Kent Hovind mentions the Mustache Man or his political party from Germany in the 1930s into the 40s. It does not have to be him violating Godwin's law, however. You just have to bring him up, because they love to bring him up. We'll also take a drink if Bent, Vish, or I can successfully predict what Kent Hovind's going to say, where it's not super obvious. We will also take a drink if Kent Hovind cites a source. We check that source, and not only does the source fail to support him, but if it actively contradicts him, we call that a Trojan source. We take a drink. We'll also take a drink if anyone super chats or membership chats anything with the any of our kaiju emojis. So that is Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and I think that's all of them. Sometimes we allow Carmen in too as a kaiju emoji, because Carmen, despite being a very small dog, should in fact be allowed to stomp all over cities. Let's see. We will also take a drink if either Mothra or Godzilla come by audibly. And let's see. You can also get us a drink by sending anything to the effect that Answers in Genesis or AIG are a bag of dicks. And also, if you gift memberships, we will take a drink for each gifted membership up to the point where it's about 30. So, yeah. I think that's it. Bent, what did I miss?
You did not miss any rules. You got all 13.
Awesome. All right.
For each tribe.
Yes, the 12/13 tribes. Even when I was a kid, I did notice that. I was like, hey, how come we keep saying the 12 tribes, but there's like 13 names? And
13.
And someone's like, just don't worry about that. 2 of those are actually one tribe somehow. I'm like, oh, okay. Sure, I guess. Also, spoiler alert, all 13 of the 12 tribes are mostly made up. So, like, that's okay. All right. Are y'all... Okay, I'm not going to say, are you ready? Are you likely to become more ready in the next few minutes?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
All right, here we go. When we last left off, Kent Hovind was scoffing at the idea that we could measure a half-life of 1.3 billion in potassium, 1.3 billion years, sorry, in potassium, because who sat there and watched it decay for 1.3 billion years? And my response to that was just like, that's just like telling a cop who pulls you over for speeding at 105 miles an hour. Did he watch you for 105 miles to see if it took you an hour to go that distance? No. Well, then I don't think he could accurately measure your speed. Which is, of course, obviously dumb. You don't have to watch an entire process go from one time period to the next in order to give it a rate with that time period. You can tell that someone's going 105 miles an hour in like 10 seconds. So, yeah. Oh, it was 7? I said 9, I meant 7. You know what? Yeah, 7 cervical vertebrae for mammals. What is wrong with me today? Also, hey, mammals, why you got so few cervical vertebrae, huh? Be more like me. I got like 20. Let's go. 7.
Why do we need 20?
So you can turn your head around.
We can already turn our head.
Yeah, like 80 degrees.
That's at least 180.
Oh, it's from facing forward.
from side to side.
Yeah, okay. I meant from facing forward. So like maybe 90 from facing forward. You got to get to like 120 degrees at least on one side
Why?
from facing forward, so you can see behind you.
We're an apex. We're like an apex predator. We don't need that.
You'd be even more at the apex if you could see behind you. I'm gonna hit play, and we're gonna listen to this stupid guy who probably has 7 cervical vertebrae.
Obviously, nobody did. Same with carbon. Nobody watched it for 5,000 years either. What they do, they will take a sample of the radioactive element in the laboratory, surround it by Geiger counters or photographic film or something that will record when a particle breaks up, sends off this little alpha particle or beta particle, and it'll make an impression on the...
Okay, do either of you think that Kent knows what a beta or an alpha particle is?
I strongly doubt it.
Okay. Do you think he knows that beta particles come in 2 flavors, plus and minus?
I don't think he knows that.
Okay. In case you guys are wondering,
I don't
beta...
think
Oh,
he watches PBS Space Time.
I doubt it. I also don't think he knows that beta plus particles are actually antimatter, and that you are in fact frequently surrounded by antimatter all over the place.
Someone's talking about Dreamland. Yo, niche Birmingham knowledge. Well, Tuscaloosa, but
Man,
that's
I gotta say,
a local barbecue place.
one of my favorite things about the World Cup has been people from places like the UK coming and trying Southern barbecue for the first time and being introduced to the concept of flavor for the first time in their entire lives.
Oh my God, this food tastes
right. One of my favorite ones was a German guy who was like, all right, this is all really good, but I'm suspicious of this sausage because, I'm German. And so he takes a bite of this like cheddar sausage and he's like, okay, no, this is one of the best sausages I've ever had in my entire life. I was like, yeah, American food isn't just a bunch of hamburgers. It is basically all meat, but like, it's not just hamburgers. All right, I'm going to hit play. Sorry.
Atomic Squirrel is saying Tuscaloosa. And like, yeah, that's where the original started, but there's one in Birmingham. It's just off the UAB campus. And yeah, they have good sauce, good food.
All right, here we go.
The X-ray film or the Geiger counter or a click or something. Through very careful testing, they can actually...
He doesn't... Although, to be fair, most people have never, ever held anything that detects radiation and actually used it. Bent and I have, but like most people never have.
Actually determine how many molecules are decaying in, say, a 3-day period. Let's suppose we take a sample of carbon-14.
All right, so to be fair, he's actually basically right. He's obviously unclear on exactly how this actually works, but he is basically right. So the way that you do it is you do just put the sample in a test chamber that's going to be detecting whatever comes off of it, and you're going to measure the rate of radioactivity. And if you know the approximate mass, well, not approximate, like if you know the mass of how much of whatever it is, like you have how many moles of whatever substance it is, and you can detect the radioactivity, then you can use that to pretty straightforwardly just calculate the decay rate. Dutch Tunicate Official for $5 says, there are several animals that would prey on our ancestors and even modern humans looking at you, tigers. Yeah, see? If you can't see behind you, how are you going to avoid the tigers, Vishanti?
You put a mask on the back of your head. It's really easy.
I don't see a mask anywhere.
That's how they do it.
Well, I guess you probably don't have... Well, all right. Let's see. For Claude Simulator for... Oh, sorry.
My question to Kent, if we can detect radiation with these devices and we can detect decay in a short period of time, what evidence does he have that the decay rate would change? Because he doesn't think that you can extrapolate from watching it for a short period of time to a long period of time. He just doesn't like it.
Yeah, basically that's what it comes down to, is it would be better for him if that weren't a thing. But unfortunately for him, and fortunately for science, I suppose, whether or not the decay rate can change is a matter of whether or not physics can change, because it's based on the strength of the weak nuclear force. And changing that is just as silly as changing gravity, right? Like if we're just going to say, like, what if gravity was distant in the past? What are we doing? It's not science. It's pretty sure that's not what we're doing. Cloud Simeon for $2 says, if we're possessed, we can rotate 720 degrees. Yeah. Just like in The Exorcist.
Also, Cyrilon notes that we can turn our eyes in our sockets.
Yeah. Can you do that so that you can look behind you?
We don't have to like turn our head all the way around when we can see directly behind us just by moving our eyes in our sockets when our neck starts to hurt.
It's not as good.
Okay.
Plus, if you use if moving your head to keep your vision stabilized, you get to do the cool chicken head bob when you walk. Yeah.
We put it in the machine and we surround it by instruments that will measure how many clicks it's giving off.
Oh, I forgot to say we were taking a drink for him basically getting right how this works. Taking that drink.
We know this contains 10 million molecules. 3 days later, we have counted 817 of them that decayed. So we get our calculator, 817 decayed in 3 days out of 10 billion. You know, and they work up a formula to get the half-life. It's
and then he
done
just debunks himself. He's like,
yeah,
you don't have to be there to watch it for a billion years. Except we can do simple math.
Right. Like, can you do high school math? Can you do algebra from high school?
He cannot.
No, he cannot. But if you can, then you can figure this out.
What was it? I don't remember if it was when we were reading his dissertation, but I remember being on a stream, and I'm pretty sure Bent was there, where he couldn't do half of 90. Or he calculated a third of 90 or something, and he got it completely wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
You remember that?
Yeah, he said, I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but yeah, it was like 90, and it was some fraction that was an easy fraction, like a half or a third. And he just got it completely wrong. And we're just like, how? How did you get this wrong? But then again, I've also seen
Jeffrey for 15 years. Can't do math. Good job.
I've also seen, though, Jeffrey Tompkins fail to successfully sum 2 3-digit numbers and put it in one of his quote-unquote papers. So being bad at math is just like a common thing for creationists. Dutch Tunic Official for $2 says, we can also use our sense of hearing. Yes, so can a dinosaur. Like, come on.
Fearmonger has it. That was a Kent with Bent. And it was a third of 70 is 45.
Oh, jeez. That's so bad. Oh, that's more than half. No. How do you do that? Oh, my God. Oh, thank you. Thank you for remembering for us.
Numbers are hard.
Numbers are hard, but they're not that hard.
They are if you're a yuck.
Yeah, that's true. They are frequently off by like 7 orders of magnitude on their basic back of the envelope calculations.
On a 2 or 3 day sampling. I won't argue with them. They're probably right. The half-lives are probably correct. I'm not arguing with them. But I think people do need to understand, it does sound a little fishy to test it for 3 days and come up with a 1.3 billion year number.
No, it doesn't.
How long have we been testing these, by the way?
I mean, decades in most cases.
I would say let's go with at least 50 years, even though that's probably low because we, started futzing around with atomic energy back in the 40s. And
we've known about radioactivity since Madame Curie, so like longer than that, really.
So
hey, kids, don't lick radium.
I'm just going to give him 50, just to be generous. And in that time, has the decay rate changed, Kent?
No, it has not.
He can just go, yeah, the math works, but it sounds fishy.
Yeah.
So you just don't like it. Okay, cool.
That's exactly what that is. It's just like, it would be way better for me if that weren't the case, guys, actually. So, and also, like, how does that, like, Kent, we could just pick different units, right? Other than half-life, right? We could just pick like 100th life, and then we would drop the number on like the measurement a whole lot. Would you prefer that? Because like we could just do that. That's a thing we can do. There's no like the choice of half life is arbitrary. We could do third life, 100th life, 18 millionth life. It's just that it's convenient because half is an easy thing to keep in your head, but it's fundamentally arbitrary, like all other units are, right? Like the value of the mile is an arbitrary number we picked. The value of the kilometer is a similarly arbitrary number that we picked. There's nothing written in like.
Which tells you what a sissy punch Newton must have had.
It's true. If you ever felt a 1 Newton force, Newton was definitely a sissy puncher. Punched like a tiny little kid.
That just sounds a little fishy to the average person, I think, of average intelligence. But
I'm taking a
does
drink.
He think he has average intelligence? Because I doubt that.
He thinks he has above average intelligence. I guarantee.
Incorrect.
Yes. Yes, he is.
I won't argue with him. I'll tell you, yes, your number is probably correct. However, you still...
Oh, I forgot to tell everyone what the super chat goal is. If we hit the super chat goal, which can be any color super chats, I will have an extra stream, and I will do it on Sunday. So,
cool. There
you go. I'm already probably doing 2 to 3 streams on Saturday. So
you can say no to things.
I'm not going to say no to a potential birthday party stream.
Okay.
But I might skip out and not do the whole thing. Roshina for $4.99 says, Kent thinks the ice canopy, the dome, prevented radioactive decay and prevented grapes from fermenting. Wait, is that... I know he believes there was an ice canopy, but does he actually think that it stopped radioactive decay and prevented grapes from fermenting? How would that work? Yeah, what would possibly cause that effect? Stop grapes from fermenting. Screw you, vector fungus. Stupid. Saccharomyces cerevisiae, get out of here. My favorite fungus, by the way, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So it's a really good one.
Still have the assumptions. Has this decay rate always been the same?
Yes, Kent, because that's how physics works. If you want to propose a change to the decay rate, you're going to have to propose a way for the force of the weak nuclear force to just change. But if that changes, it won't just cause decay rate changes, it'll also cause previously stable nuclei to become unstable, which would mean we would have whole new decay chains. No, it's not. Like, there are a few options for changing decay rate. One is you can just accelerate whatever it is super fast so that it's at like, relativistic speeds. But that, from your perspective, is going to slow the decay rate down. That's why the rate of muons hitting like the surface of the Earth is actually pretty similar to the amount that are like way up at the top of the atmosphere. And that's actually one of the ways that we have tested for relativity, because they have super short half-lives, but they last too long going through the atmosphere. Well, it's because they're traveling at relativistic speeds. So for them, it's not taking as long as what you're measuring on your clock. Okay, cool. Well, that doesn't help because you need accelerated decay. So the only other option is that you're just changing the force of the weak nuclear force. But that's just going to make a whole lot more stuff radioactive. Like, Noah's body is just going to start literally coming apart as he decays away nuclearly. That seems like a bad idea. Also, even if that weren't the case, the accelerated nuclear decay would just kill him from his own internal radiation. Because, hey, here's a fun fact.
Oh.
You have radioactive elements inside your body as part of your cells.
Wait a second. I figured it out. He found the Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh.
Obviously. Yeah, because people's bodies just decaying away, breaking all the molecular bonds. Yeah, it's a Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Missing a few things. Let's see. Jillian Wren, who's been a member for 37 months, says Zane's 13th birthday is Sunday. Party too. Awesome. Well, happy birthday, Zane, if you're watching. And if you're not, then Jillian, if you could show Zane me saying happy birthday, I'd appreciate it. Sapphire Light says, congrats to Kent for a second Professor Dave scum rank. Yes, absolutely well
That's
deserved.
right.
Roshiner for 199 says, it's why Noah got drunk. Grapes started fermenting. Oh, is that the thing? Oh. Does Kent know that you don't make wine by just letting grapes sit on the vine too long? That's going to be vile wine. That is...
Yeah.
Noah making wine is a whole process. It's not just like, oh no, the grapes fermented on accident. Michael Fox RDH for $5 says, happy birthday. Yes, happy birthday to Zane. And Arrow Dodger for $4.99 says, the parallel port on Kent's laptop is more up to date than his arguments against science.
Wow. Harsh.
Claude Simeon for $2 says, reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. That should help, actually. That's always going to help.
Ionize the shield plating.
Yeah, we got to polarize the hull plates. You know, Vishanti's favorite Star Trek is Star Trek Enterprise.
It's true.
We actually are finishing off season 2 today. That's the plan.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
When the show definitely does not know where Pensacola is.
You know, I'm going to go ahead and say that the VFX team didn't know where Pensacola was, or is. Or I guess works in the context of the show.
Yeah, it's definitely in the Panhandle. It's not the Peninsula, but okay, sure. Maybe in the future, some sort of weird climate change caused them to pick up and relocate the entire city to the Peninsula.
It's actually New Pensacola, but after the old Pensacola was blown away by a hurricane, they just dropped the new part. That's the real reason. Yeah.
Look at me. I'm the Pensacola now.
How much was in it when it died? The interesting thing about potassium
is you can get it from bananas, which is why sometimes when people get really panicked about very low amounts of radiation, I like to convert it into equivalent bananas and say, this is as dangerous as standing near 500 bananas. How scared would you be of 500 bananas? And if the answer is not very, then that's how scared you should be of that amount of radiation, because that's how much radiation 500 bananas gives off.
Potassium, when it decays, it produces argon, which is a gas they use for welding.
You know what? I need to check the potassium decay chain, because I'm pretty sure it doesn't decay straight to argon, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's see what the potassium decay chain is.
While you're doing that, I'm very excited that the Enterprise boys are coming to DragonCon. So far, save Captain Archer, but we're going to have John Billingsley, Anthony Montgomery, Connor Trenier, and Dominic Keating coming back. And I'm very excited because they were all there my first DragonCon. So
very nice.
Yeah.
All right.
That means I got to go find where my custom Enterprise jacket is that I made. They all really liked it when I wore it to like a convention. And I also do have an Enterprise jumpsuit. I just need to get it tailored. It's a little big.
Looks like potassium-41 actually does decay directly into argon-41 via beta minus, and Kent was right. So we will take a drink for Kent being right about that, because, hey, that's what we do. Good job, Kent.
We have a tank of argon to go with our welder. You know, you turn it on when you're welding and it does something to the weld. I don't remember what now.
It keeps it from reacting with the oxygen, Kent, so that your weld doesn't just turn into rust. Because it's a noble gas, so it doesn't react chemically with anything, so it prevents chemical interactions. I mean, it doesn't normally interact with things chemically. You can force noble gases into weird situations where they will form compounds, but, like, normally, no.
I don't care. But argon gas, I forget what else it's used for. It's like 1% of the atmosphere is argon, or less than 1%. So it's a pretty small amount. Potassium produces argon. And since argon is a gas, the theory goes, wow, when a volcano erupts and the lava is flowing out, since it's a hot lava, it's going to drive all the gas off.
No, that's not the idea. I'm going to take a drink, because that's a dumb thing.
Do you think Kent gets really excited and starts clapping when the onion volcano at the Japanese hibachi grill starts going?
I think he would, but I also feel like Kent Hovind is racist enough to have never gone to a hibachi grill.
I don't know. I think he's probably been to one.
I don't know.
At least one.
I have an image of Kent Hovind, and you'll have to forgive me for this, because of an image of Kent Hovind being asked where he wants to go and being offered like a burger place, a barbecue place, and a hibachi grill, and saying like, I don't know about Oriental food, and then going to get a burger. That's how I imagine that conversation going.
Would I be correct in saying that you're good at catching the shrimp that they try to flip into your mouth at the hibachi grill?
Bent?
I don't think so. No.
No?
You're not?
No, I dropped.
That's too bad.
You seem like that you would have like a secret skill of being like, nah, I could totally get these shrimps.
I can totally drop them.
Tyler West for $4.99 says, Ken says Noah didn't know that he would get drunk since alcohol didn't exist before. What does Ken think that yeast excreted as a waste product of their digestion before the flood?
He doesn't think about this. He doesn't know.
That's so dumb. Why would the fuck? Oh my God. Is it a miracle? Did God just be like, okay, alcohol is turned on now? Did he flip the switch to like, okay, alcohol on? Oh.
Post-flood patch.
Yeah, seriously. It's like, all right, we patched out the glitch that was preventing alcohol from spawning. You're welcome.
But we kind of like had to, when we compiled it, there's a bug and we can't fix it, and that's mosquitoes. Sorry.
All right. Here we go.
So there's a lot of potassium in lava, and since there's no argon, mistake number one, if we...
Oh, right, I never actually pointed out why that's stupid. Okay, so the idea is not that it's a gas so it escapes, right? Because oxygen and hydrogen are also gases, and they're all over igneous rock, right? So the actual problem here is that it's a noble gas, which, like I said before, means it basically never forms chemical bonds. And when lava cools, right, to form an igneous rock, what happens is that various chemicals will assemble into crystals, but crystals are actually defined in their shape by the electromagnetic forces in the interplay between the various atoms there. But because argon is completely neutral and doesn't form either covalent or ionic bonds, it doesn't get incorporated into crystals. And so it outgasses in a way that hydrogen or oxygen don't. So does helium, by the way. Because again, it is a noble gas. Xenon, same deal. So what this means is if you find argon embedded inside a crystal, well, it can't really have formed there because it can't go into a slot in a crystal. And so what must have happened is that something else that decays into argon, like potassium, that is not electrically balanced, will have taken up a spot in a crystal matrix. Usually that's going to be an impurity because we don't have a whole lot of like just potassium. But then it's going to decay. Actually, it's usually going to be a precursor to potassium itself, but whatever. And that's the reason that we know that there's no argon natively in these crystals when they form. It's because argon is chemically inert.
Found a lava flow, we could tell how long it's been hardened by how much argon is in it now compared to how much potassium is in it now. Because it should start...
But you can't use that to tell how old the rocks are? Okay, Kent.
Yeah, he's going to say that there could be argon to start with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Producing argon, and half the potassium is going to decay every 1.3 billion years. So this is called potassium-argon dating.
That's true. Take a drink. I'm thirsty.
They're checking to see how much potassium is in it and how much argon is in it. They're assuming when the eruption took place, it reset the clock to 0. There should be no argon.
Well, not really any measurably significant amount. It's possible that some might get mechanically trapped somewhere and that might end up in your sample, but it's unlikely. And so effectively, it's going to be 0.
Mistake number 1, as we'll see in a minute. Okay.
Okay.
It has been proven
Also,
over.
I'm shaking my head because he's like, they assume. We've tested this, Kent.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We test rocks that are in the ground versus rocks that just came out of a volcano. We don't just assume.
Over and over and over. Potassium-argon dating does not work. However, they still rely on it.
Kent, if you have evidence that that doesn't work, you should publish that, because it wouldn't be the first time an alleged measuring technique was found to not be reliable, at least in certain circumstances, and then that was published on. In fact, some of Kent's examples of cases where carbon dating, quote, didn't work were actually people saying, hey, I bet carbon dating won't work in this situation for this reason. I'm going to test it. And yeah, it turns out. So Kent, if you can publish on limitations to carbon dating, you can also publish on limitations to potassium-argon dating. So do it. You know the reason he hasn't? Not because he doesn't have anything.
He's functionally illiterate.
Well, it's not even just Kent, though. Like, if creationists had this, some of them could publish on it, because some of them actually can publish papers. Like, Andrew Snelling has published real geology papers, right? Marcus Ross has published actual paleontology papers. Brian Thomas has published a paleo biochemistry paper recently. It had to have redactions and corrections, but it was published.
Oh my god. In the chat, KF Fox writes, is potassium-argon dating still banned at Bob Jones University?
No, the ban was lifted, but you'll be surprised as to which century it was lifted in. I love when people find out that it was this century that Bob Jones University lifted its ban on interracial dating. And it didn't actually really lift the ban. It just said that if you're dating now, you have to have permission from both persons' parents, which just means that your racist parents who sent you to Bob Jones University are just going to say, no, you can't date that, insert racial slur. So
Remember, they can't be racist because they're polite.
yes, that is how it works. Yeah. It turns out that if you're polite enough, then none of your opinions or beliefs or advocacy can actually be a problem. That is a well-known fact.
Many scientists rely on this. When a volcano erupts, it throws out a layer of ash all over the countryside.
Depends on the volcano, but that is
Depends on the type of
common.
volcano.
Yeah.
If you find a fossil under that layer of ash, in the mud or rocks or whatever,
It's going to be rocks, but sure.
you would assume this animal died before the volcano erupted.
Well, yeah, because that's, gravity, time. You put those two things together, and yep, that sure is how that works, Kent.
Right? Then more layers of mud get on top of this ash, and more animals die and get buried in the mud. And then another volcano erupts, or the same volcano erupts again.
Yeah.
New layer of ash over the countryside. If you're digging straight down through these layers of ash, if you find a layer of ash, which is called, by the way, an event
Ash
horizon.
rocks.
Yeah, well, it's going to be tough, but also he just called it an event horizon, which is not
It's not a black hole, Kent.
what an event horizon. I'll take a drink. Oh my God. An event horizon is a concept in physics. It is a point past which there is no return. So the most common example that you get are black holes, where there is a distance from the center of the black hole past which you cannot escape, and all of your spatial paths all point towards the singularity. And so the singularity is an inevitable event in your future, rather than like a location that you go to. Which is why physicists say that time and space kind of swap positions inside the event horizon. Nothing like that is going on in paleontology. There is none of that in paleontology. So no.
This is a major event. Volcano blew up. Okay. Anything between those two.
It's because it's a major event.
Ah, so it's an event horizon. Kent heard the word event horizon once and thought it was super cool. Yeah, that's what happened there. Okay.
2 layers of ash should be between the ages of that ash.
Pyroclastic flow, Kent. It's also like igneous rock. It's sometimes 1 or 2. And this is really dumb.
IT Guru points out that event horizons in soil are a thing, but they're specifically invisible boundaries where intense fire altered the soil chemistry. Volcanic ash would instead be an andesol layer. There we go. Thank you, IT Guru.
Great.
So they actually date the layers of ash with potassium-argon dating.
Well, that's one of the techniques, but okay.
And then estimate the age of the fossils between the 2 dates.
Oh, so Kent, every time you say they estimate the age by the fossils and they get the age of the fossil, sorry, they estimate the layers of the rocks by the fossils and they get the age of the fossils from the rocks and it's circular. So every time you said that, you've known that you were lying about it being circular.
Yeah.
Cool. Good to know, Kent.
He's just now talking about a dating method.
What a fucking asshole. Taking a drink and yeah, I dropped the F-bomb. If we get to 50, I'll lift the limit. Jeez. That pisses me off more than when he says that Timothy wrote the book of Timothy in the Bible.
Like this picture here from National Geographic, 85. They show 1.8.
Take a drink for a joke that didn't land.
Yeah, he did try to say National Pornographic.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder why he didn't. He usually does.
So the top one's 1.4. What they're saying here is that
1.4 what?
A billion years, I assume? Million years? I don't know.
Units, Kent. You need units.
I feel like Kent was the guy who never figured out how to label his axes in math class. Or physics class. He just never did it.
Ash dated at 1.4 million years old.
Million.
The next one down dated at 1.8 million years old.
Okay.
If you find an animal in between, what number are you going to give it?
Between 4 and 8.
Yeah. Also, Eris Rose just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Thank you so much. I am going to take 5 drinks while Bent and Vishanti argue about which Star Trek alien species is best.
It's the Klingons, obviously.
Best at what?
At being Klingon.
Yeah. Well,
you
there we
just
go.
said best.
Now we know that it's the Klingons because Vishanti did not offer a counter argument.
I was going to say because the Denobulans are the best at having big, stretchy, weird smiles.
That's true.
That's true.
And for having very complicated polyamorous relationships.
Yeah, which is not actually like a polycule because like the other people that your partners are with are not like with you in any particular way. So like, I don't even know what you call that. Because typically in a polycule, like the members are at least to some degree all attached to each other. Right? But also, if you want to join the polycule, you have to tell me what your special move is. If you don't have a special move, you don't get in the polycule.
Mine's a sharpshooter.
Templar Warden for 5 at Kiwi Buck says, so we have event horizons and soil horizons, but what's a zero dawn horizon? It would be funny to somehow sneak that into creationist science. That would actually be a lot of fun. Zero dawn horizon. And you know what? I bet they would use that as like evidence of intelligent design because the robots had to be designed by someone.
I have just been informed that according to Ann Gladstone, there used to be a Dreamland barbecue in Norcross, Georgia, and it was great stuff until the building burned down. It was owned by the same people. Yeah, it's franchise sort of, but I didn't know that. Dang, that sucks.
Yeah, that does. Well, rip restaurant.
Somewhere between those 2 numbers, right?
Yeah.
That's how it's done. So the ash layers are dated, and that is called an event horizon. And then any fossils under that are older, any fossils over that have to be younger. It sounds really good.
It does
That's
sound really
because
good.
that's how
Kent.
stratigraphy works.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just how events work, right? Like just think about it in terms of snowfall. Did the snow at the bottom of the snowfall fall first or last? It's obviously first. So, like, what's the disconnect, Ken? Where are you going to tell me that this is a problem?
He just doesn't like it.
Doesn't work. But it
Okay.
sounds really good. Okay.
Okay,
And
why
very
doesn't it work,
convincing to the
Kent?
average freshman college student. I'm sure he swallows this up whole.
Does Kent not
No,
know
they-
that? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, they don't just swallow it whole. You test everything that they teach you in class. That's what the lab is for.
Yep, that's what I was about to say. Is like, is Kent not aware that like colleges have things like labs, and that you have to go and do these things? Heck, I have a history degree. I had to go to an astronomy lab where I estimated the mass and age of stars by measuring their like emission spectra. That's a thing I sat there and did with a calculator.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, and a little printout of stellar emission.
I don't remember what all we tested in my astronomy lab. Of course, that's been, well, an undisclosed number of years ago. But I do remember when we got to go look at telescopes and check out the moon, and that was the first time I saw Saturn through a telescope, and it looked fake.
Despite
Because you always see, you see false color images where they've got like different cloud bands and stuff colored artificially, and then you look at the thing through a telescope, and it's just this hazy yellowy color, and you're like, "That's it? Okay."
Despite going to a school in Lowell, I never went to the Lowell Observatory for my astronomy class.
Oh.
I
That's a
mean,
real shame.
it was thousands of miles away, to be fair. So, you know. Because the two Lowells that the Lowell Observatory and the city are named after are very different Lowells.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
clever.
Yeah. The Lowell that the city was named after was the first person to ever build a factory in the United States. And he did it by taking a tour of a British textile mill and memorizing how it worked, and then drawing out blueprints for mill machinery on the trip back to the United States. And then
Okay.
he built mill equipment and started a textile mill. Yep. Dutch Tunicate official for $2 says Kent does not understand basic cause and effect, and that seems to be correct.
KBS Tuff. By the way, tuff is a name for ash. An ash layer is called a tuff layer.
Well, no, it's ash that's consolidated into a rock. If it's not consolidated, it's not tough yet. So Kent is like halfway right, I guess. Templar Warden for $5 Kiwi dollars says, from what it sounds like, Kent learned maths by rote. So I doubt he understands the concept of learning how things work despite talking about it. Yeah, that actually does seem to be a thing with Kent. He seems to be profoundly incurious and uncaring of like processes and like using things like logic and chain of events and things like that to discover how things work. But he does seem to be a really big fan of just memorizing little facts about things. Like there are certain numbers that he keeps just like around in his head, like various constants or things like that. And like, it's like, why? Who cares? And he even says, who cares? And yeah,
Really, I'm finding his citation on this slide fascinating because he's quoting text from Nature in 1970. And then the photo apparently is from a completely different source. It's from National Geographic
but also
in 85.
a 1985 November issue of National Geographic that has over 500 pages.
Uh-huh.
What
Yeah.
National Geographic magazine ever had was about 600 pages? This is...
I don't think it works like a journal where there's just like
Yeah.
continuous numbering.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not. That is bizarre. All right, well, I don't know, maybe it did work that way in 1985.
Okay. This is named after K. Berensmeyer.
Berlingsmeyer.
Okay. K. Berensmeyer. KBS. I forget what the S stands for. KB.
It's Doesn't matter.
K. Brensmeyer something.
Oh, Eris Rose, who's been a member for 32 months and is at the Tetrapod level, says, don't forget to light the live with a Mothra, and we will take a drink for that Mothra. Thank you very much.
Swift Light says that Nat Geo did number their pages continuously back then.
They did. That is weird. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That is bizarre, but hey, okay.
The KBS Tuff was named after her because she discovered this layer of ash digging in Africa someplace, apparently, and said, wow, let's have it dated. And since she's the one who had it dated, it got named after her. I mean, if you spend all your time digging in the dirt and all you find is an old ash flow, you got to be famous for something, I suppose.
All the people that get things named after them, like units of measurement and entire like processes. But no, you're going to sit here and dunk on the person for whom this dating method is named after because she's a woman.
Yeah. And also, I think she probably found a whole lot more than that. Because it sounds like she was a geologist working in Africa, which is a place that has a lot of stuff to discover. Because it's really, really big.
Turns out. Yeah, and it turns out if you make significant enough contributions to science, you tend to get things named after you.
It's true. It's true. Kent will never have anything in science named after him. And, yeah. So she is always going to be a more famous and more important person than Kent Hovind will ever hope to be.
So, K. Brensmeyer named this tuff after her. Everybody dated this KBS tuff using potassium-argon dating at 212 to 230 million years old. This is from Nature magazine, April 18th, 1970.
Always on the cutting edge.
Many people would check the KBS tuff. They'd get a sample of it, and they try to get an uncontaminated sample. You know, they find the layer, dig way back into the hillside, you know, use rubber gloves and the whole thing, and try to get a sample and don't let any air touch it and, you know, seal it up. Go to the laboratory and date it. And everybody was having a contest who can get the closest to the exact date of this KBS tuff. Because if we know the age of that ash layer, then anything below that's older, anything above that is younger. Sounds good. Arguments raged about how old is the KBS tuff. Different scientists published papers and said, oh no, that thing is 219 million years old. Somebody else said, no, it's 229 million years old. I checked it in my...
Okay, so I've double checked this, and age estimates that I'm finding are 2.063 million years old, 2.188 million years old, 2.331 million years old. Let's see. And then some upper layers of it date to as young as 1.57. So what I'm basically finding is that everyone agrees that the oldest parts of it are a little bit over 2 million, and the youngest parts are about 1.5 million. And so it was probably deposited over the case of 500,000 years.
Yeah, this is well within the range of like the margin of error.
Yeah. And also, it's not all going to be exactly the same age because it's a thick, tough layer from a volcano that erupted repeatedly, which means that, yeah, you're going to get different ages on certain areas. So I can't find anything about anyone ever suggesting it was over 100 million years old, which probably makes sense since the reason it's famous is because a whole bunch of hominins have been found there. And hominins didn't exist 200 million years ago.
My way is better than your way. Okay, and they argued back and forth in the Nature publishing articles. They got to publish about something, I suppose. And
Nature's not.
The argument.
Well, Nature's a peer-reviewed outlet.
Yeah, but I'm just like he's going to start confusing Nature and National Geographic.
Fair chance.
And
yep,
I know for a fact he hasn't read any of these papers.
Oh no, Kent Hovind can barely read the Bible. You think he can read a paper? He read Timothy and thought that Timothy was the author.
So we're within this age
Letter
range.
to Timothy. Yep, Timothy wrote that.
Yep. Look, that's always how I start out letters that I'm writing to someone. I'm like, Dear Bent, this is to Timothy, which happens to be my name, by the way. Every once in a while, people are like, wait, you tell people your name? And it's like, it's in one of the oldest videos on this channel because Kent Hovind keeps calling me Timothy in that video. I was like, now, Timothy, what I hear you saying? And then he says something I definitely wasn't saying. Because Kent Hovind also doesn't listen to people.
212 to 230 million.
Nope. That was none of the dates that I can find. Kent is just either making this up, or he got it from someone else, or he's just lying, I guess, which is, I guess, the same as making it up. So, yeah, no, I'm going to take a drink. I've not been able to find anything suggesting even close to that old.
Everybody's happy. This number gets published in numerous journals, and everybody accepts it. Till 1972.
Hey, Dapper.
Richard Leakey.
Yes.
When a paper's published, is there a methodology section?
Yes. Yes, there is.
Why is that?
It's because people need to be able to figure out how you got the answers or the results that you did, and then be able to go back and replicate your work to see if they can get either what basically substantially the same results as you did.
What happens if they can't replicate your results using the methods that you used?
Generally, they publish on that, and then other people will double check. And if it looks like no one else can get that, and like that's a really consistent thing, is that everyone else is getting a consistently different result, that can be cause for your paper to be retracted.
Weird. So people check your work by replicating what you did. They don't just accept it.
Yes, that is correct.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
So yeah, Kent just
one of-
not knowing what the hell he's talking about.
One of the big things in science is can other people get the same answer as you? It's kind of like when you were in like math class and you got a multiple choice question, and then you did the problem like 4 different times, and each time you got a different answer, but it was always a different answer than any of
None
the
of them
choices,
were the multiple
right?
choice, yeah.
Exactly. You know you
Yeah.
done something wrong if that's what happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
Came along and found a skull, a perfectly normal human skull, under the KBS Tuff.
A perfectly normal human skull, huh?
Well, this is going to mess things.
No. They were not perfectly normal human skulls. They were, in fact, a bunch of things like, let's see. Oh yeah, Australopithecus, because Turkana Boy was found there. Yeah. So no, not perfectly normal. In fact, definitively distinct, with much more prognathic faces, a much more squared tooth line, much larger brow ridges, a brain case that would be perfectly normal for like a chimpanzee or a bonobo in terms of proportional size, but with a very, very ventral foramen magnum, so it was a upright walker. So like, yeah, definitely not normal. Oh, but he's getting this from bones of contention, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In case you guys don't know, both bones of contention, this older one and the newer one that was published by John Sanford and Christopher Roop, are a combination of incompetence, dishonesty, and basically those two things, incompetence and dishonesty. Almost nothing in them is actually accurate. Dark Law Dragon for $2 says, AIG is a bucket full of broken spears with a Godzilla. Absolutely true, and we will take a drink for that. Next, we're going to take a quick break here.
I was going to say, it's the top of the hour.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break for people to do things like refill their drinks, maybe grab a snack, stuff like that. And then we will be right back. And if we can get 36 super chats, we'll do an extra stream, and we can drop the F-bomb again, because I dropped it at one point earlier. Used up my own F-bomb. Sorry about that, everybody. All right. We're going to get out of here. First, you can see the teaser trailer for the next episode of Star Trek Endurance over on Top Hats Off. And then after that, it'll be the musical stylings of one Bent Hovind.
Captain's Log Stardate 61208.6. A Federation survey probe has gone dark in the Calmira system. For some reason, Starfleet Command has tasked us with investigating the incident and retrieving the probe. Stranger still, the mission is Priority 1, and we are to avoid contact with the Calmarians if possible. although I doubt it will be. We made first contact with the Calmarines not that long ago, and I think it went well, except for the whole Geological supervillain taking over bodies part. I hope this doesn't mean that second contact is going to turn into a disaster. We need friends out here in the Expanse, and we already have more than enough enemies. I am expecting an encrypted and classified call from Starfleet Command any moment now, although I don't think I'll be able to put what is said in my log.
The probe has encountered one of the most dangerous objects known to the galaxy, and the Calmirans have noticed the probe in their system. The safety of the entire Expanse depends on the crew of the Kong-Z. If the wrong people get their hands on the information in the probe, it could be worse than any Telecall technology yet encountered. Can the crew prevent a disaster of unprecedented proportions, all while keeping relations between the Federation and the Calmirans friendly? Find out next time on Star Trek Endurance, only on the Top Hats Off channel. Okay, we are back. Thank you very much for sticking with us. Those of you who did, I see that we have a super chat here. Yes, Joshua Geese for $5 says Upright Walker, Texas Ranger. Nice. Good stuff. All right, so before we continue on, I will give my quick after the break little talk, I suppose, which is to say, hey, this channel is entirely dependent on my viewers. Very little of anything that this channel brings in is from ads, from like people actually just sitting and watching videos. It's not nothing, but it's pretty close. And so the fact that I can continue to do this, to give 3 videos a week consistently, sometimes more, far more often more than fewer, is basically down to the fact that you guys allow this to be something that pays my bills. And so if you like what I do here and you want me to be able to keep doing it, then what I would say is the best way is the Patreon. It's linked down in the description. The Patreon starts at only $1 a month. You can get a 15% discount if you do an annual pledge instead of a monthly pledge. There's also the channel memberships. There's a join button below this video. That starts at $1.99, and there is no annual option. It's just $1.99 or whatever higher tier. Both of those give you early access to videos. I just put out an early access video today. I'm hoping to have another one done hopefully in the next week or so. Yeah, there's also the Discord. So my Discord is a place where I think some pretty cool people hang out. And it is generally a pretty awesome and very welcoming space. And there's also a lot of pet pictures. So if you like pictures of dogs or cats or fish or turtles, or sometimes birds, sometimes we get some birds in there. Yeah. then that's a fun place. So there's also just obviously giving super chats, buying people memberships, super stickers, all that stuff is always very helpful. In fact, that's one of the biggest proportions. So I want to say a special thank you to everyone who helps with that in that way. Also, there is a merch store. If you look below this video, there should be a merch shelf. If none of those things interest you, but you might still be interested in some merch, click through to the actual store. There is more stuff. There's mugs, there's baby onesies, there's pillows, blankets, t-shirts, almost everything that was available when I set it up, other than leggings, because I couldn't find a place where I could arrange the pattern on the leggings that didn't make it look like I was biting into your crotch. So I decided not to do it rather than make it look like that. So, yep, I was hyper aware of placement on the leggings, and I was like, nope, just, yeah. So there's also, I have 2 wish lists. I have a Steam wish list and a Throne wish list. Steam wish list is obviously a bunch of video games. The Throne wish list has a bunch of stuff, books, snacks, some game stuff, just basically stuff to, make me happy here and there. And let's see, there's also one way to help if that does not involve actually sending me any money or physical items, is to help me with my rendering. So the way that I render animations is with a render farm called Sheepit. And basically, if you want to help me get my frames rendered faster, you download the client from the link in the description under how to render for me, get the client that's appropriate to your operating system, use my login information that's also in the description, and then you will either get points for me that give me that prioritize my frames higher depending on how many points I have, or if I actually have a project up like I did earlier today, you will actually get my frames to render directly. So both of those are very helpful. And I think that basically covers it for how you can help me if you want to. And also, importantly, I want you to be able to afford it. If you can't pay like your kids' orphanage bills or something like that, then don't get a subscription to like my Patreon or anything. Pay your kids' orphanage bills first. So I know that Bent always likes it when I tell people to pay their kids' orphanage bills.
I do. It reminds me of The Office,
I know.
which I enjoy.
You how many times have you rewatched it now? 14, 15?
I lost count, but I'm rewatching it right now, so
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So here we go.
Things up royal, isn't it? Because here we've been teaching everybody that man didn't evolve till 3 million years ago. How do you get a modern human skeleton under a layer of ash that's 212 million years old?
You don't. Nothing there is even close to 212 million years old. You're off by 2 orders of magnitude, which is one more than the free one that we give creationists. So I'm taking a drink. Also, it wasn't whatever a normal human skull is. It was an Australopithecus. So no, Kent.
Well, they'll try to find ways to make this happen. One way is they'll say, well, maybe the person was buried there. He fell into a crack and got covered up, and it looks like he's under that layer, but he really wasn't. You just found him under the layer, but he was buried there. He was put in later. I mean, people dig graves now. Dig a hole, put the person down there, right? Okay.
Is it deep enough to mess up
stands-
all of like the geological strata? No,
No,
it's not.
So there actually are some hominin fossil sites where there have been modern human remains found. And it turns out that the answer is because it was reworked. So someone dug into the fossil bearing layers and deposited a human burial or human body as an intentional burial. But the thing that you can tell is that the infill from the burial is full of a jumble of all the upper layers. And so you can test to see, is this infill from above? And there was reworking to put this body here. And sometimes the answer is yes. And then we say, all right, well, then we can't date this skeleton to the date of the layer it's actually in. We have to date it to the youngest layer that we can find material from. And then there you go. That has resolved every such case. It's almost like scientists have in fact thought of these dumb, simple things that Kent Hovind thinks are genius
No.
gotchas.
No, Dapper, because they just
it's impossible.
accept things they're told, remember?
I forgot about that. Okay, so pro tip. If you think that you, a person who has absolutely no idea what you're talking about, have discovered one simple trick that all the experts don't want you to know about that debunks their entire field, chances are that they are already aware of that and that you have not discovered anything at all and you just don't know what you're talking about.
When fossils are found, they give them a number. K is for Kenya. I forget what the other ones are for, but it's easy to look up in a book somewhere. Each of these numbers and letters has a significance for where it was found and who found it, I think.
I mean, he is right that they get catalog numbers and that the letters actually do tell you about where it was found. So because I feel like being generous and because I'm thirsty, I'll give him that one. I'll take a drink.
He couldn't be bothered to write the other explanations down in his notes or his slides. He's just like, yeah, I don't remember, but the first one's Kenya.
I mean, yeah, it is pretty lazy. Too bad Erica isn't here. She'd be going crazy right now.
Their name is encoded in here somehow. So we find skull number 1470. Normal human skull, but it's...
Okay, he said 1470? Is that what he said?
I think so.
Something like that.
Okay, let's see what we can find out about this. Let's actually see if that was even one of the skulls that was found. 1470. Yep, KNMER 1470. All right, so KNM. Oh, I should probably type in 14, not 1570, right? Let's see. That is Homo rudolfensis. It is absolutely not a, quote, normal human skull at all. It is certainly more human-like than, say, I don't know, like an Australopithecus afarensis or something. But yeah, nope, not a normal human skull, as Kent would say. Homo rudolfensis. Not an entirely different species from Homo sapiens.
It's in rock that is too old. So what are you going to do with this? First, they try to discredit it and say, oh no, it was not really there, it was put there later. So after everybody digs around, and the guy who's digging up these bones, of course, has to very carefully document everything he does to make sure people believe in him, you know, because somebody's going to try to prove him wrong. And finally, everybody agrees, okay, he's right. This was not put in the ground. I mean, all the layers above it are undisturbed.
By the way, the consensus age for KNMER 1470 is about 1.9 million years old, which is pretty consistent with what we were looking at for the earlier lower dates in the KBS Tuff. So I don't know where he's getting any of this other than creationist hacks, because I can't find anything even approaching this anywhere when I check actual sources that rely on, like, you know, evidence. That pesky thing.
This guy wasn't buried here. He lived here. So now you can come to...
Those two things are not contradictory. Many people are buried in roughly the place that they lived. That's in fact, I'm pretty sure that's been the norm for most of human history, is that most people are buried more or less where they lived. Tea Time for $10 says Mothra AIG are very suggestive crops in a bag. Nice. I will take a drink for that. Thank you very much. All right.
Two choices. Aliens visited the planet 200 million years ago, which is honestly what some people came up with.
I have no idea where he's getting this 200 million years ago, because that's well into the dinosaur era, right? Like, we're in like the Jurassic or something 200 million years ago. So,
a bunch of folks said, well, this proves aliens came here.
Who, Kent? Who? Citation needed, Kent. Who in the world suggested that a Homo rudolfensis skull found in a 1.9 million year old bed of tuff was proof of aliens, Kent? Name the guy. I want to know who it was.
Yeah,
I
how
want
would
his
that
name.
mean
Give me his
aliens?
phone number. Yeah, I have no idea.
That doesn't make any sense.
Aliens came and then what? Picked a guy up and put him under some ash? Like, what do you... Take another drink. What? How would that solve any of the questions, even if it were true? Were they time travel aliens? You know what? I figured it out. Just like all conspiracy theories, it goes back to the Jews, whom we know have time travel technology.
And space lasers.
And space lasers. They have the space time travel technology. That's how they got to Atlantis to go fight with the Martians. We all know this because Jordan from Spirit Science told us. And he got that from Drunvalo Melchizedek. And would Drunvalo Melchizedek lie to you? He channels Thoth, the Atlantean. Would Thoth lie to you? No. So, okay, we figured it out. It's all specifically Vishanti's fault, actually. You were the one who time traveled. That's canon now.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you haven't done it yet in your timeline, but that's how time travel works, right?
You will
Sure.
have.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, you will have time traveled in the future into the past to trick everyone by putting a Homo rudolfensis skull into a perfectly normal place for there to be Homo rudolfensis skull for
Me.
some reason.
Lol.
Yes. One of these days, someone is going to be completely unconfused by this. Peggy Chase. There's a whole lot more that I have to read on the other one. The carbon-14 mythicist, there it is, says maybe Kent just can't count the zeros in 200,000. Yeah, that is a possibility.
The other choice is to say the layer's not really that old.
Well, since as far as I can tell, it was never thought to be that old in the first place, I think what happened was everyone was just like, oh, cool. And then moved on with their lives because nothing about this skull was at all unusual or out of place. The only significance it had is that people were arguing about exactly what species it belonged to, and then we figured it out.
Right? So that's what they decided to do. Well, that layer is not old at all. Even though it had already been dated a bunch of times.
I cannot find any evidence of this.
And everybody agreed it's over 200 million years old. Because they found this skull, they're going to check it again. Suppose they had never found that skull.
It sounds like they would continue to think that most of it was about 1.8-ish million years old.
Nobody would have checked it again, would they? And everybody would have accepted that age. And somewhere else, somebody would find a fossil under that, and he would date it by the KBS Tuff at 240 million. So this entire geologic column is all a house of cards.
No, Ken, you're just making up a much older date that I can't find any evidence was ever proposed. Like, everything I read about the KBS Tuff, as well as the fossils found in it, indicate that it has always been estimated to be closer to 2 than 1 million years old in most places. And as you get up to the very tippity top, then it's like 1.5 million. Everything I can find about this. If anyone can find a source that ever dated this KBS Tuff at 200 million years, please let me know.
Everybody's date is based on somebody else's date, which is based on somebody else's date, and the whole thing's a bunch of baloney. All right? But this is how it's been.
Yeah, well, he just made up some stuff, though, so it has to be. Would Kent make up lies and just tell them to you? Kent Hovind?
Yeah.
Dr. Dino? Oh, my goodness. Maybe you're right.
Constructed through the last 150 years by all of this stuff of putting these dates together. Okay. They dated the skull at 2.9 million years old.
Also, no, 1.9. 1.9, Kent. I guess it's within the free margin of error that I give creationists, which is one whole order of magnitude, but like, still no.
Still got a problem. So they took 10 different samples of the KBS Tuff. Everybody who wanted to be famous said, I'm going to go prove the date of that. KBS everybody was wrong. we're going to get it right.
Kent, no one who wants to be famous goes into geological dating. Bent, name a famous like person who dates rocks.
TD Lane?
No,
I don't even know if he does that.
he's also not famous.
It's famous to me.
Well, sure, to you, but no.
No, I can't name anyone.
Shanti, do you know any famous rock dating people?
Why would I know that?
Exactly. No one's doing this to become famous, Kent. You think you're going to be famous, and to some degree, I guess you're kind of right, but not for any good reasons. But like, no one is getting famous by working at a lab that tests the isotopic ratios in rocks. That's not how anyone's getting famous. If you want to be famous, that is not the job to get. Jeez. I'm taking a drink. Oh, all the people who wanted to be famous. They sat around in there with their mass spectrometers.
Because I got to publish an article so that I can keep my government grant. Basically, is what it boils down to.
Well,
Wow,
good
that
news,
didn't
Kent.
age well.
Yeah, good news, Ken. No one's keeping their government grants. Which means that we're going to lose out on things like, I don't know, cancer funding. Or that the American screwworm is going to come back in Texas and start spreading through the Americas because someone decided, oh, we're spending millions of dollars to sterilize flies. We should get rid of that because let's have billions of dollars in cattle loss. That'll be great for beef prices. I'll take another drink. Kent Hovind is an example of why people who don't know a damn thing about science shouldn't be in charge of what science gets funding. Also, in case you didn't know, there was never a trans mice experiment. There was an experiment involving transgenic mice, which means basically genetically engineered mice. They weren't convincing the mice that their gender assigned at birth was different from their actual desired gender expression as adults. That's not a thing. Because they're mice, they don't have social constructs around gender. That's not a thing they do. And so, guess what? We lost out on funding on valuable research into transgenic techniques that we could use to do things like engineer better crops or even, possibly, treat genetic disorders in humans. Nah, screw that. It had the word trans in it.
So now they got 0.5 million to 2.64 million. Well, I'd like to point out two things. Number one, that is still way down from 200 million, right?
Right, but I can't find anything that ever says that that was the actual age, Kent. Where did you get that?
Number two, they never would have redated this thing if they had not found that skull.
Kent. Okay. I'm going to take a drink because I can't right now. I'm losing it. Guys, I'm losing it right now.
It'll be okay.
Nope, it won't. Nothing will ever be okay again.
At some point, it will be.
Nope. Everything's going to suck more and more and more, and then I'm going to die.
Yeah, you may be right.
Yeah. Okay. Ken, the reason people were digging around at this part of Kenya was because it was thought to be about the right age to get hominin fossils, and it was also in the right place. And it turns out that there have been fossils from 3 different hominin species, all found in the KBS Tuff in Kubifora, Kenya. The entire reason people were there was because they thought it was not 200 million years old, because if they thought it was that old, there wouldn't have been expeditions by paleoanthropologists to go dig around at a time when you'd be more likely to find a freaking stegosaur than a hominin. The entire history of the excavation of this location is tied up in paleoanthropological work. So no, they didn't think it was 200 million years old. And no, the skull wasn't the reason that they revised this.
Right? Can you see how many, is your mind racing thinking, wondering how many dates are in there that they haven't been able to, they published them and everybody's believed
My
them.
mind's not racing. Because I know what margins of error are.
Yeah, there's that too. Something that Kent has in common with Flurs. An ability to understand margins of error. Ah, my goodness. Kent really is a Flurf level idiot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Fits of Rage for $2 says Antwerpen in Antwerpen. Goodness. Antwerpen im Genesis ist ein Bootel mit Version, which I think is the sausages thing.
Antworten im Genesis ist ein Bootel mit Würstchen.
There, your German
That's
is better
my
than mine. I'm taking a drink.
I'm pretty sure that's Dutch.
Well, then your Dutch is better than mine. Dutch is a silly language, though.
But maybe. But I only recognize a few of those words because of music.
Well, Dutch is a very silly language. And I think the Dutch should get a more serious language. Like Loglan.
What was the meme that went around last year? We have ein serious problem.
Yeah.
But it was spelled all like Jar Jar Binks.
Yes. Yep. And weirdly enough, it was a Geert Wilders tweet. And like, no one who was involved in sharing this had any idea who Geert Wilders is. But
oh, it is German? Okay, thanks, Icarus.
That's a guy who's a piece of shit, just like Kent Hovind. Although for different reasons. That guy's just a virulent Islamophobe. He tried to ban the Quran in the Netherlands.
That's really stupid.
Yeah.
Been able to verify it.
9,000% error factor.
That's a 9,000%
Who
error
said
factor.
9,000% error factor?
It sounded like it might have been Eric. Because Eric is obviously at all of these.
But even with the two dates they did get, 0.5 to 2.6, that's a 500% error.
Yeah, but that's not a thing that ever happened, though, Kent. So, like, who cares? Kent is spending this entire time talking about something that, as far as I can tell, he either made up or that he got from Bones of Contention or Contested Bones or whichever one.
Even the new dates are no good, right? And they call this science.
He wouldn't know how to test them anyway.
No, he wouldn't. And yeah, Ken, we do call it science because it's gathering data and making measurements and coming to conclusions on the basis of empirical data, which can then be checked by other people. That's what science is. Even if it did have a really big error, margin of error, that doesn't make it not science. And if you want to counter the science, the way that you do that is by formulating your own tests that are better and that have less margin of error and that are more replicable. And then you publish on them. What you don't do is say, that's science? That's not anything. That's just some asshole preacher from Pensacola, Florida, before he gets convicted for tax fraud. That's nothing.
That's not science, that's fairy tale stuff.
No, Kent. Fairy tale stuff would be things like talking animals teaching moral lessons. Like, I don't know, talking snakes or donkeys.
So, of course, everybody that had ever dated the KBS Tuff before, that used to be hero, wow, he got it right, he was 218 million, you know, now all of a sudden he's a villain.
Okay, it just never happened, but whatever, we all know that now.
Why didn't he catch that back then? And they've got a whole list of excuses. They can reach in and grab which one of why they got the wrong date. Well, it was contaminated. He didn't have accurate equipment. He didn't know what he's doing. He didn't graduate from the right university, or whatever. You know, I'm sure they got a whole list of excuses they'll pull out. Back in 1770, George Buffon was one of the guys who began teaching the Earth is older than 6,000. See, when Darwin's theory came out in 1859, Darwin was in the middle of an era that had already been teaching for nearly 100 years that the Bible isn't right on the age of the Earth.
Actually, it was an era when, just like today, both Christians and Jews were looking at Genesis and coming to different conclusions as to what was actually literally true about what it was saying about the age of the earth. Because there has always been people who have Genesis in their scripture who were taking both extremely hyper-literalist takes on the genealogies and things like that, as well as people who were taking much more symbolic and metaphorical takes on this. In fact, for a very long time, day age was more common than just literal young Earth creationist type nonsense. So it's a lot more complicated than that. In fact, I'm not aware of a stratum of at least Christian thought that where everyone was just on board with 6 days happening roughly, what we would call 6,000 years ago. Obviously, for them, it would be more like 4,000 years ago, because, Christian thought starts roughly 2,000 years ago. But yeah, I'm not aware of any stratum of Christian literature where that's just the default assumption that everyone is making. And I have read a lot of very early Christian literature. I have read pretty much all the Christian literature from the first few centuries of Christianity, of the Common Era. And that's just not the position. And I've also read a lot of things from other people, like later Christian theologians, including like Gregory of Nyssa, Augustine of Hippo, Hope Leo, lots and lots and lots of people. I can't find that as a consensus in any of that. That's not to say it didn't exist, but it certainly was not just the default Christian assumption about how old the Earth is. I don't know. Vishanti, do you know of a stratum of, say, Jewish literature that assumes that Genesis is just literally true and the Earth is only a few thousand years old? And that has to be the way it is? And you're wrong if you think otherwise?
It's a very, very, very tiny minority of Jews. And for centuries, our most prominent commentators have said, hey, if you take this as literally 6 days, you're stupid and foolish. Don't do that.
Yeah. The Muslims have a pretty easy time, because by not having Genesis anywhere in their scripture, they get to just be wishy-washy about the dates, because while the Quran does tell Adam and Eve stories, it does not anchor them at any particular time. So it also tells stories about Moses and Abraham and so the Quran does not give specific times for that. So you can just put it wherever you want. Which, hey, good for you guys. Although I did once read a fatwa from about 15 years ago coming out of Saudi Arabia about why the earth was actually flat. And it came from a Saudi Arabian cleric. The earth is flat, and the reason is a fewfold. One is that Muhammad, in a reliable hadith, said that there were heavens above the earth and other earths below the earth, and that doesn't really make sense with how far apart they're supposed to be, according to him, if the earth isn't flat, and these aren't stacked like a tower, because they can't be concentric circles, because the earth would have to be too big for that. And also that in the Quran, a character that's usually associated with Alexander the Great finds the place where the sun sets in a pool of murky water, and he meets the people who live where the sun sets. And that's impossible if the earth is not flat. And yeah, that was a weird thing to read, in having come out of Mecca in the 2010s. And it was at the same time that Mecca was constructing that gigantic kind of garish clock. And it was this whole round earth thing that people talk about with time zones, nonsense. I was just geez, man. Okay. Luckily, as far as I can tell, no one took that seriously, because here's a fun thing about a fatwa. That's just some guy's opinion. You don't actually have to listen to those. You might take it seriously. I mean, I've also read a fatwa against nutmeg. That was interesting.
Okay.
It turns out if you take a lot of nutmeg, you'll start having hallucinations, which means that technically it's an intoxicating substance, which means not okay. But yeah, if you take a lot of nutmeg, you'll trip. From what I've heard, it's a very unpleasant trip, and it's not recommended. So don't do it.
Okay.
Mr. Plowking for $6.66 says Buffaloed scientist peer pressured me into sending this as a super chat. Kent talks out of his ass, so he assumes donkeys can talk too. That's actually really good. I like that. No, that's really good. All right, here we go.
People already believed in evolution way before Darwin, but they didn't know how it happened. Darwin just simply...
I mean, they believed that populations could change, but most of them believed in like continuous spontaneous generation of simple organisms, which then went on to climb the great chain of being to become higher organisms, ultimately culminating in humans, which is a really far cry from anything that any evolutionary biologist would tell you about. So like, I don't know. It's like saying, oh, Christianity has been around for a really, really long time. And your evidence is that like, well, you know, the Old Testament is in the Christian Bible. So all the people before Jesus must have actually been Christians, but like pre-Jesus Christians. No, that's not how that works.
Gave them a mechanism. Here's how it worked, folks. Oh, wow. Thank you, Darwin. You explained it to us. Okay. That's why Darwin is treated like God.
It wasn't. No, he's not. And also, it took a while for his ideas to catch on.
Yeah.
Particularly in like mainland Europe, which I learned happens to have like no native like monkey species. So the idea that humans were related to apes was offensive. And, you know, places that have native monkey populations, it's trivially easy to see the resemblance there and go, I wonder if there's something going on there. But yeah, scientists at first were like, I don't know. But it turns out people kept finding evidence and testing things. And then when genetics took off as a field, we found even more evidence. And wouldn't you know it, that model just gets more and more well supported.
Weird. Fearmonger the Blurry Potato says, so is there a case of Benadryl and NyQuil being haram for that reason? So I am not aware of any, and I would suspect that it's unlikely, and there's an important reason for that, which is to say that intoxicating substances that are used for medicinal purposes...
I was going to say it's medicine.
...are usually considered to be halal. So, like, if you have to take a drug and it has to be dissolved in alcohol, you can consume the alcohol for the purposes of getting that drug into you. So I believe that would be the case there. So, first of all, look, I am absolutely not an Islamic jurist. So no one should be running to me for their advice about like Sharia compliant medicine. Absolutely not. However, my understanding
I was going to say, because I know some practicing Muslims that I could reach out to if people just really wanted to know. But I mean, if I were going to guess, the medicinal fact overrides the other stuff. My
guess is that if you were to ask like an actual jurist about this, they would say that Benadryl and NyQuil cannot be taken for recreational purposes. So if you're taking it to start hallucinating and that's your goal and you don't actually want the medicinal effects, that is haram. However,
I think that maybe you're not taking into account the fact that lean exists.
My guess is that most jurists would say that that's also haram.
Well, yeah, but
so I think that
they can take it just to get.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is, if you're taking it for the reason of you want to get effed up, that's probably going to be haram. But if you're taking it because you need the medicinal effects, that's probably halal. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. Buffalo Scientist says, I'd rather get my misinformation from Dapper than any right winger. Well, I'm at least going to try to be fair, right? I'm not going to be like, oh, hey guys, do you know what's in Surat at-Tawbah verse 10 or whatever? Therefore all Muslims bad. I'm probably not going to do that.
I mean, I've become at least marginally acquainted enough with Jewish law to know that there are parallels in the philosophies of what would be permissible and not, to make some educated guesses. So.
See, Fearmonger the Blurry Potato says, well, then there shouldn't be a problem with nutmeg. Well, first of all, most Muslims don't think there is. Because I'm cooking with it and not taking it for the purpose of getting high. But the question then is that still a recreational use of an intoxicating substance? And for this one particular imam who issued this one particular fatwa, which is not widely observed, he would say yes. Virtually everyone else would disagree with him.
Yeah.
Why are we so sidetracked into nutmeg and whether or not it's halal?
Also, I think they're probably similar to like Jews in that if one guy issues an opinion and everyone else just goes, okay,
Nah.
then
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Right. That is basically how it tends to work.
Back in 1770, George Buffon said the Earth is 70,000 years old.
Always on the cutting edge.
In 1905, in Newsweek magazine has the article about it, the official age of the Earth was 2 billion
Newsweek.
years old.
Just
And do you
take a
think that
drink.
they just made that up out of thin air? You think they pulled that out of their ass?
It's
Yeah,
possible.
let's add another 500 million just for funsies.
So what Kent here has a problem with is science getting new data and updating its information basis on the basis of new data. That's a problem for Kent. See, what science should actually do is just assume that whatever answer it gets first is the right answer with no margin of error, and that's just what it is forever.
Mhm.
And that would be how science would be trustworthy. Everyone who knows the first damn thing about science knows that that's the opposite of what's trustworthy. And that if you are part of something that does not update when new data comes to light, that might be a problem. At least to the degree to which, like, the things that you're a part of are making, like, actionable truth claims. I don't think that, like, a chess club needs to update its rules for chess on the basis of new data. Like, whatever, who cares? But otherwise, yeah, no, it's pretty important to be able to update your views on the basis of new information. Something Kent simply cannot do, as far as I can tell.
Also in the chat, Petite Flower is saying that Jewish rules are life and health are paramount. You can break any rule for medical reasons. I think you're referring to Pekuach Nefesh, and there are actually like 3 or 4 exceptions to that, but they're so rare that you may as well treat them as if they're not an issue. So,
Yeah.
like if you're quite literally going to starve to death and your only option is shrimp, eat the shrimp.
Mm. Like if you're stranded on a desert island, eat the shrimp.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If
If you're Shomer Shabbos and someone, near you has a heart attack or a seizure or requires like firing up a car and driving them to the emergency room, drive them to the emergency room.
Yeah.
So.
What if someone needs help figuring out what happened with the guys who pissed on his carpet that tied the room together? Does that do you get to drive him around then, even though Shomer Shabbos? What's the ruling there?
Only in emergencies.
And does it matter if you're a Catholic who converted just because you married a Jewish woman and then she divorced you anyway?
Yeah. I mean, if he converted, then he's still a Jew even if she divorced him, so.
All right. So it still counts. He was right that whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
old textbooks from the early 1900s and look up the age of the Earth. It'll say the Earth is 2 billion years old.
It turns out we've learned things since then, Ken.
Mm-hmm. But also, I want you to notice
Shocking.
that we're getting closer and closer to the accepted 4.5 or so billion years, and that that number hasn't changed in a very long time.
When they went to the moon, 1969, here's an article from the newspaper, Minneapolis Tribune, August 25th, 1969. The article said, study shows moon rock to be 3.5 billion years old.
Which is not the same thing as the
Was
age
the-
of the moon, Kent.
The age of the Earth.
Yeah, it's not the same thing as the age of the
Also,
moon
like-
or the Earth.
The moon didn't form at the exact same time as the Earth, Ken.
Also, it continued to have volcanic activity for about 1 billion years after it did form. So we shouldn't
What does
expect
he
all the rocks to be the same
dark
age
spots
anyway. Also, I don't know how he thinks anyone could read any of this.
But he drew red circles around it. That's important. It must be controversial.
Oh.
The official age of the Earth and the moon was 3.5 billion when I was in
And
high
when
school.
was that?
When he was in high
Like
school.
60 years ago?
When he
Okay.
was in high school. So yeah, probably about 60 years ago.
Okay.
But also, he didn't actually show us anything saying that the age of the moon was 3.5 billion years ago, or 3.5 billion years old. He found something that said a moon rock was 3.5 billion
A
years.
moon rock.
Right. And here's the thing, right? If I pulled like a hair out of my human suit and wondered how old it was, like how long ago did that hair grow at that section? The answer is probably not the same age as my human suit. It's probably a different number. Because one of the things that Ken fundamentally just does not seem to be able to understand is that sometimes you can find a part of something that is younger than the whole.
There it is. Look at the circle on the far right. It was possible to estimate the age of these extracted samples in terms of the extent to which radioactive potassium-40 had decayed into stable argon.
And
It is largely through measurement of the extent of this slow decay process that scientists are able to determine how long it has been since a rock was last heated by volcanic activity or other processes. See how it's done?
bingo, volcanic activity.
Which continued on the
You know,
on the moon for well after it formed. Yep.
Yup. Again, what does he think the dark spots are?
He doesn't know.
So they said the rock is 3.5 billion years old. That's the last time the moon was heated and the argon gas escaped.
No, it's the last time that rock. Yep.
was
Exactly.
heated.
We got too much noospheric communion going on there, Vishanti.
Reset the clock. Yeah, right. Today, students are taught it is 4.6 billion. I saw a book recently that said it's 4.65 billion.
That's called
know.
a rounding
I guess we just-
difference.
Yeah. Oh no, if only we had a way to test it. Guess we'll just have to accept it without question.
I love that Ken says that he
Womp.
taught high school math for 15 years and he doesn't know
School
what
science.
rounding is. How? I'm taking a drink.
It's baffling.
It really is. Rounding is such a basic thing. I feel like I knew it probably in like 4th grade or something. Like, it's such a basic concept. Like, hey, you don't always need all the extra numbers. Sometimes you can just like round to the nearest 10. Like, you know, oh, you have 28 or something. Just call it 30. It's fine. Who cares?
Yeah.
Guess what? They're trying to add a little more, aren't they?
Yeah, they're
No.
trying to add. Okay, Kent. Why would they be adding it? What do we gain? What's the benefit in making the Earth slightly older?
Yeah, that is a good
this
question.
point-
Like, what rhetorical goal does he think that the evil evolutionists are gaining by adding, 50 million years onto the age of the Earth? Like, who cares?
Well, I calculated the Earth is getting older at the rate of 21 million years
Oh,
per
he
year.
calculated it, huh? Mm-hmm.
So basically, he just went from like 1770 to like whatever year this was and found the age that it was estimated at before we even knew what radiation was.
Mm-hmm.
And then the current age. And he was like, well, what if I divide? Hey, Kent, has that trend continued in the past couple decades? No, it hasn't. Weird. It's almost like we were converging onto about the right answer, because right now, the answer of 4.5 or 4.6 or so is basically the consensus and has been for decades now, without really moving in any significant way.
This is one of those things, like, I try to explain to people who don't really get how science works. They're like, it's constantly changing. I can't rely on it. Bleh. It's like, okay, just for a very imperfect analogy, but it'll kind of help you grasp the concept. When you walk into the optometrist's office and you're looking at the poster on the wall that has all the letters on it, you're like, okay, cover one eye, read the letters off. And you do. Then you'll cover up the other eye and they tell you to do the same thing. You may not get the same answers. And you'll also notice that there are letters that you can't really discern as you start to get lower, and that will depend on, obviously, the strength of your eyesight. But if they put corrective lenses on you, you'll find that the answers are a lot clearer. And then they'll adjust your prescription a little bit, like which one's less fuzzy, which one's more clear. And you kind of do that until they figure out, hey, this is probably the prescription that you need. This is what science is doing. We have a very fuzzy idea, we make some estimates, we try testing, and then we gradually get more proficient And that range becomes clearer and clearer, and we get even closer to what the most likely answer is over time. That's why it's changing, because it's getting more accurate. Not
You know
because
what?
we're like, I just feel like changing it today.
This reminds me of the people who complain about the so-called rise in autism, which is literally just us getting better at diagnosing autism. And like,
Yeah.
this alleged rise isn't continuing because it turns out that we've actually figured out some good diagnostic criteria. And now we're actually able to diagnose a very large percentage of the people with autism as so, or well, autism spectrum disorder as so. And it's not a rise in anything. It's similar to like the people who are like, oh, wow, everyone is like gay or something now. It's like, no, it's just that people aren't hiding it as much anymore. People weren't any more or less inclined to be gay 200 years ago. They just shut up about it and did it in secret. And now they're more comfortable telling people because they're not as likely to be beheaded or something.
That was one of my favorite parts of the live Dave debate with the two anti-vaxxers.
Yes.
Is he was like, hey, you think that, autism rates are tied to vaccines and this, specific ingredient? And he goes, yeah, it definitely is. And Dave goes, oh, they took that ingredient out like 20 years ago.
Yep.
And the guy goes, well, yeah, it's because we complained because it was dangerous. And Dave goes, so they took out the chemical that you say was causing it. Have autism rates gone up or down?
Weird.
Oh.
So it wasn't linked to autism then, was it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like science scripters have this consistent inability to understand both causality and just basic math.
Mm-hmm.
For the last 220 years. That's 40 years per minute.
Man, I
You're
can't believe that we've discovered so many new medical treatments and so many more diseases in the last 250 years. Must be a conspiracy.
Oh, you just reminded me of something that Raw Matt said, which is that, we're getting all these new genetic diseases. And it's like, Matt, that's mathematically impossible, right? Like, humans have been mutation saturated for centuries, which means all the genetic diseases that can exist have existed and do exist right now. What's happening is that we're discovering them. Not that they're brand new, but that we just found them. Just like we're finding new dinosaur species, not because they're being invented and then placed by Satan into the rocks, but because we're looking better.
The dinosaur manufacturing factory.
Seriously, what is
hell?
it? Pseudoscientists are so bad at this. It's like, every time we find something, that must be the first time it existed. No.
I honestly want to troll some of these people when they talk about the Earth keeps getting older and they're finding all this other genetic, and they just start complaining about things that we're finding and be like, yeah, I really think it's a mistake to stop blaming demonic possession for these diseases. I think that's fake. So the next time they start getting a stomach ache or a migraine or they have a stroke, be like, all right, we need to start praying over you. You can't go to the hospital. That's demons. And the only reason I don't do that is because I know there are people who unironically believe that.
There are.
And some of them have killed their kids that way, and they've been put on trial, and they're now in prison.
Good. It also reminds me of during Trump term 1, when people were saying hey, the COVID numbers are getting really, really, really high. And Trump was like, well, what if we just stop testing? Then they'll go down. Which, yeah, they will. That is true. The numbers will go down.
Oh, this is the dumbest timeline.
Mm-hmm. But hey, have
if
you
you
thought
just
about
inject bleach?
Yeah, just find a way to get the bleach inside you. It's a really good disinfectant. Which, I mean, to be fair, if you inject enough bleach, you will not have COVID anymore.
Correct.
Yep.
If you jump in a volcano, you will also not have COVID anymore.
That's true.
Rapidly, folks. Okay. Here's some things to consider about carbon dating. Wild dates
Cat doesn't know anything about it.
No.
2, you can't use it on fossils. 3, cope.
We're going to leave things to consider about carbon dating for next time, I think. We're close to the end. I don't know that I have it in me to go through all of this right now.
Hazer downhill. What does that even mean? That's why it's called decay.
Yeah, what is... You know what? That's for not next week, but when is our next Kent with Bent? Let's figure this out. The next Kent with Bent is on August 4th, I believe, right? Yeah, looks like August 4th is our next Kent with Bent. I guess that's when we will talk about that.
Time.
I mean, this is always... So Kent with Bent is basically the show that happens when we don't have another show on Tuesday. Ideally.
That's so weird, because in my brain, it's Tuesdays is Kent with Bent, and then also sometimes other things.
Well, that is basically what it is, right? So like if there's a 5th Tuesday in the month, it's Kent with Bent. So it's the 2nd Tuesday of the month is Tisdall Tuesday. 3rd is Matt with Maddie. 4th is Jackson with Jackson. And every other Tuesday that happens, it's Kent with Bent, which is usually the 1st or the 5th. But if like someone tells me early, like, oh, if Maddie's like, I can't make it, I gotta go to my cousin's wedding or something, then it usually becomes Kent with Bent. So, yep. All right. So, do either of you have anything coming up that you want people to know about before we get out of here?
I do.
House hunting in LA is exhausting.
Yes, I would imagine it is. That does sound absolutely exhausting. Thank you for being here, even despite that, because, oh boy, that's, yeah. All right, so what's coming up here on this channel? On Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, we have Irregular Masonry is actually Tendons, where Roger Spur is going to take us on a tour of mostly South American archaeological sites that have irregular masonry, but a few other sites too, like some places in Greece. And he is going to tell us that irregular masonry is not just people cutting rocks into irregular shapes in order to help prevent earthquakes from toppling their structures. No, that's actually irregular because tendon fibers are irregular, and people cut up the tendons of giants to make their masonry. That's the real reason. I don't know why you look so suspicious or like unbelieving there, Vishanti. Roger is an actual genius who has overturned both physics and geology, and who has taken pictures, large-scale pictures, high-definition pictures of photons.
Okay.
Like an individual
It's
photon taking up a whole screen.
He's also a guy who definitely has seen in real-life vulvas.
I can see what would make you say that. Yeah. Although, actually, honestly, like not even in pictures, apparently. Like you haven't even seen a picture? Anyway, so that'll be on Thursday. On Friday at, let's see, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, over on Top Hats Off. Right now, the plan is to do Star Trek Endurance. And so, yeah, if you like that, if you saw the teaser trailer from earlier, come check that out. I think some of the bigger Star Trek nerds might know what's in store for the crew. But I like to keep it a little bit cryptic. I don't actually know if any of the people in the game are big enough Star Trek nerds to understand the what that trailer meant. But we'll see. Saturday, the plan is to be back with Vishanti and Kip for the next episode about that one what is it, sermon. Oh,
actually might not be here. The Central Library here in LA is having its centennial celebration, and they're going to have like an all-day festival with crafts and history tours and like food and music and stuff. And I got tickets like 2 months ago, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to leave to go to attend that before the show starts. So I'll keep you posted.
My! So it might just be Kip, or maybe I'll replace Vishanti with Chesh if I can get her to do it. You never know.
You can't replace me.
I mean, okay, how about this? Just go to the thing and then use your time travel technology that you have that you get, like, you know, once you get out of the mikvah, they just give you the time machine, right?
And the codes to the space laser.
Right, yeah. So just use that to come do the show after you're at the library, while you're at the library.
Oh,
Problem
yes,
solved.
of course.
Yeah. Okay. You just can't meet yourself because then that'll be a paradox and it might implode the whole universe.
Yeah, that's what happens in 12 Monkeys. Don't cause a paradox. Things explode.
All right. Borg Emporia definitely got what was in that trailer. Good job, Borg. And then next Tuesday will be Tisdall Tuesday. That is the plan. So that is what's coming up. If you are interested and you are, up and about, then we are going to be watching the next 2 episodes of Star Trek Enterprise, which I believe are the final 2 episodes of season 2, where we will find out where Pensacola is in the 22nd century or something. And it's not where you expect if you know where Pensacola is.
No.
So it's Florida. It's close enough. Who cares? All right. See you later, everybody. And the last thing, of course, is that ICE must be abolished.
Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Hovind, Tapioca Weasel, The Plastic Mouse, Mikao Dominiak, Sphincter of Doom, Regios, Landon Knoll, Eleron Teller, Phil Rivera, David Hercules, Joshua Geese, Dan Sheedy, Pegajace, Arrow Dodger, Gordon Love Science, Ember Athelian, Prixie Purple, Agricola Sequa, Me, Myself, and I, Ian Kiambi, Kenneth Swenson, Max Cherry, and John Ackerman. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 15% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.